Hi, I'm Teresa from Phoenix K Crafts, and I wanted to talk about adding on a new yarn when you run out. We're going to do this on crochet. We're also going to do it on knit. So, here's the thing. We can't end with just this much. It's not enough to actually weave in and be able to guarantee that this is going to weave in. So regardless of whether you're doing crochet or knitting, you need about 3 to 5 inches. So this much is kind of minimum because you want a little too much so that you can cut it down as necessary. Now I am going to go a few more stitches just for the sake of showing this technique. I don't know why this is showing up so dark. This is actually blue. So what we're going to do is we're going to add on our new color, which is light blue. So what I'm going to do, because I do use knots, is I'm going to create a slip knot, and I'm going to leave a few inches on the new yarn. So however you want to make a slip knot is fine. And here's the thing, don't start just like on the new stitch. This is going to be a key thing. So you see how this stitch, this old yarn right here, is on this lower half. This is important because we're going to put this on the lower half, and then we're actually going to bring up the new yarn into the upper. So if you are actually changing colors, this is a good thing you can do when you're changing colors to keep the light on, the new yarn in the new yarn section and the old yarn in the old yarn section. So you're not going to see very much of an overlap. There might be a little bit, not much. So we're going to tighten that up and pull it through. Then we're going to pull this down so that it's a little bit more of a normal stitch. And now we can bring this to the back and we can work over this yarn, this down here yarn. Now what we're actually going to do is we're going to fold this. This is why you just need a couple of inches. We're going to fold this in half and lay it across. We're going to stitch over top of both on this loop that we just made. Okay, so grab your new working yarn. I know this looks like a lot. Whoops, it really does help. Hold this with that finger, your ring finger on your preferred hand. All right, and now this all gets cemented when we do the first stitch going over the loop. I'm doing double crochets. This works best on double crochets, but it can work on any stitch. So you pull up a loop and pull through 2. So now you see we've got this loop. Both parts of the loop are going into this stitch and being held by this half of a stitch. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the tail of the new yarn and we're going to kind of do a loop with 2 together, and then we're going to pull extra long so that the old yarn or the new yarn tail comes up. Then we can just pull it together and we have our new stitch with the tail coming out the top, because we're not dealing with this one now. This is the hardest part of this whole technique. We're not dealing with this now. We're dealing with it on the next row. And now we're going to just do a couple of stitches where we're working over both strands of the loop. And we're going to do that for about 2 or 3 more stitches. I typically like to do about 5. 1, 2, so that's 3 total, 4, And now what we're going to do, so that way this loop doesn't come out, because it could totally come out at any time, we're going to set up for our next stitch. We're going to go through, don't go through that loop. And then we're going to literally go, so we've gone through the fabric like we normally would, then we're going to go into the loop. And then we're going to complete this stitch. And here's the cool thing. That doesn't matter. You see how we have this spare loop right here? We're going to pull it tight. And now this is secure. It goes in 2 directions. Ideally you go 3, so if you want you can go later and put this onto a darning needle and you can go one more time. But for those of us who don't care, we can now clip this real short. And we can continue on. And if you didn't see that, don't worry, because guess what we're going to do with this? We're going to do the same exact thing, except you'll be able to see it better. All right, so now I am up here. I'm going to do 2. I'm going to flip. All right, going to snip this one just a little bit out. And then, so you see how we have that little bit, we're just going to give it a little stretch. And if you want to, you can clip it a little closer. But yes, we only have like one little spot where you can kind of see it. And you can totally just, there you go. Now you can't see it. So I'm going to get one end stitch. You don't typically want to do this all the way to the end. So you can actually do that going the other way. So you could do it going this way like I had before. But you see how that's the light color on top of the dark color, and you have the potential to see that poking through. Now this is the wrong side of the work, I decided, because you can kind of see this. But you could also do it the other way. You can do it this way. So what I do when I'm doing it this way is I bring this forward on this side of the work and I work over the tail. All right. And now I'm going to create a loop and work over both tails. Because it's the same color, it doesn't matter if you can see it kind of, whoops, between these stitches, it blends in. You can pull it a little tighter, and now you're not seeing like anything in this stitch. It might look a little bit thicker for one moment, but it's not that bad. It's all kind of held together. And now I'm in that last bit. I'm going to pull this forward, give it a little stretch, and I'm going to cut this real close, like right next to it. And there you go. That you can't see on the back or the front where you joined a new color. You can tell that you joined a new color, but there really isn't a marked difference. And here's the cool thing. Because I did this, if I were to continue in this new color, I don't have any ends to weave in because I've already woven them in well enough. And because I like to have slip knots at the beginning, the end is the only one that could possibly come out in the wash. But because it went in 2 directions, it's a bit more secure than if it just went in 1. And if you don't like the short amount that I did right there, you could do as many curves and bends as you want in the yarn. So I could have done one more loop going the other way, and it would have been 3 directions or 4 directions or however many you want going across this way. So that is very secure. Does make it a little tricky to unpick if you do have to frog though. How do we do something similar with knitting? This will be easier to see. I'm sorry about. Now, I definitely have a front side because I'm doing stockinette stitch. This on here is not something you can do that is invisible on both sides. So basically what I'm doing here is I am combining 2 techniques. Roxanne Richardson has a method of knitting 2 yarns together in the middle. This is for when you're not changing colors, by the way. If you are changing colors, just come to the end of the row and start knitting in the new color, and then do the second technique that I am stealing from, which is Stephen West's Weavin' Stephen. So just remember, this one is specifically for when you're not changing colors. The crochet one can be for when you are changing colors or when you are not changing colors, so nothing becomes too thick. This one is specifically for when you are not changing colors and you're the middle of a row or round or whatever. But I'm doing this one so you can see the old thread and the new thread or yarn, whatever, I don't know, this stuff, whatever it's called. So what you do is you hold this yarn, your new yarn, so that you can keep tension. And then in this hand, what did I do? Oh, I see. See this tail? You do want to leave another 3 to 5 inches of this tail, but that's because we're actually going to use this tail up. And then you knit 2 together here. This, by the way, really works with yarns that don't spit splice or any of the other join techniques. I don't like doing a lot of the like Russian joins and everything just because they're very hard to get exactly where you want the join to happen, and they wind up double thick anyway, so might as well just have 2 yarns together. So we're going to do 2 yarns together for about 5 stitches or so, but we're also going to Weavin' Stephen this one, just this one, for about 3 or 4. 1. And Weavin' Stephen is where you go around your working yarn with your tail, and then you do your stitch. So you put in, go around, and then finish the stitch. And then I usually do one more. You know, it really doesn't matter if you do 3, 4, or 5 stitches, and I apparently didn't leave quite enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to the new yarn, and this will be my last Weavin' Stephen on the old yarn. So I'm going to Weavin' Stephen and just do the one. Now I'm going to drop the old yarn. I'm going to go in like I'm going to Weavin' Stephen, but instead of doing the old yarn, I'm going to do the new yarn. And I'm going to Weavin' Stephen that, and then Weavin' Stephen for about 3 or 4 stitches. The reason I'm doing this is because here's the thing. If you were doing the full 5 stitches with both of the yarns, that's fine, but that doesn't leave it super secure because you could cut right here, right close to it, and then there's only one yarn kind of holding it right there. I don't like that. I like doing the 2 together because you're less likely to get a weird hole right here. That can happen when you're just tying on a new yarn and there's not that connecting yarn that's holding everything together in the back. Now that I've woven this one in, and now that I've woven this one in, I can cut these, and no matter how much this stretches, it's not going to pull more than this much out. So I will actually go ahead and I will snip these. Now, you can see this kind of no matter what. It's just a little bit thicker. It's not invisible, so this is definitely a right side, wrong side situation. And then I'm going to finish this. And go to the other side. And by the way, it really does help on the when you're knitting 2 stitches together, pull real tight. You're still going to get a little extra thickness, but it's not going to be as bad if you pull super tight. And now, how do you tell when you've got the 2 stitches together? It's because they come out of one little bend right here. And then we can just do a little bit of pulling. And I'll meet you at the end of this. All right. And now you can see I have completed this, and I can stretch this. And you notice how this right here is still held because I left a little bit of space. And you can't even see the end of the white one. Now it is possible that you're going to wind up with one of the tails kind of poking through. All you have to do is grab a crochet hook. Let's see if I can't make this happen. As you can see, I got a little bit of this one poking through the front. It would not have happened if I had not made it. Doesn't usually happen on anything this big. But all you have to do, is throw everything to the ground. All you have to do is grab your crochet hook, go to where you can see it's popping through, and grab it back through to the back. And look, it's still secure. It's still fine. And if you don't like it like that, you can just pull it through kind of the back a little bit with the crochet hook. It'll be fine. Pull it through a few loops, because this is overkill is what this is. This is overkill because it's going with the grain, the ups and downs, which is technically 3 directions already. And then it's just doing some loops. So this is very secure. This will not come out in the wash, whether this is something that's going to felt or not. And this is acrylic. This ain't going to felt. So we are good. So that is my super secret technique for making sure that you can add on the same color. Now, if you were just adding on a color on the end, just do the weave and steven. Don't do the 2 together. If you're changing colors, don't knit 2 strands together. Just do the weave and steven. You can do the weave and steven of the old color on the first row, and then you can come back, and then you can do the weave and steven of the new color on the second row. You get a really good example of that at the opening of my 2024 knit along, the second video. I will post that in the description box. So that is my super secret technique. Actually, 2 of my super secret techniques for weaving in ends as you go easily, because look at that. I don't have to weave anything in when I'm finished, because honestly, who wants to weave in extra ends? This way, when you're finished, all you have to do is 1 end at the beginning and 1 end at the end. And honestly, if you were doing something like this at the beginning with just the beginning tail for your cast on, you don't even have to do that one. Just 1 tail at the end, no big deal. And now you don't have to hate weaving in ends because you only have 1 And who cares about that one? Hope you found this useful. Happy crafting. Bye.